Hi, I'm Chris and welcome to my garden. Over the last few weeks I've been growing a number of plug plants to undertake quite an exciting project. I'm going to be trialling a new self-watering planter which Elixir has sent me, and for the compost for it I'm also trialling a new pelleted fertiliser made from digestate material. It's actually made from maize, sugar beet and all the things that go into anaerobic digestion. It's quite a good fertiliser from the point of view of being easy to apply and easy to incorporate in compost. So without further ado, let's have a look at both of them. First impressions, really quite good, tough, durable plastic. It's available in 3 colours. This is obviously the cream one, but you can also get green and black. And you'll notice that there are tiny little holes which allow the water to come out. So there's probably about 3 inches of water allowed in the bottom of this before it drains. So there's 4 sets of those. And a hole in the one end so that you can put your filling nozzle into. So this is the filling nozzle which fits into that hole. Quite a good angle to actually drop the water in, and a low, quarter, half and maximum fill mark. And we've got some various locking nuts and 2 rubber washers, one which attaches, it's got little indents in it which attaches onto the nozzle to hold it firm. I like that because it won't spin. That's just a plain washer. And then this is what fits into the bottom of the planter, and that's what you put your compost onto. It's got holes in it which allow the roots to go down. And these things are called fingers, and you pack them with compost, and that then is in contact with the water, and the water is then drawn up by capillary action. What I really like about this is that there's no felt or fleece like you get in self-watering hanging baskets, which just gets a mass of roots and very, very difficult to clean. So this is really easy clean at the end of the season. So let's have a look at how we assemble it. So to attach the water spout, it's important that you get the washer with a little slot in the top locked onto the threaded spindle. So just make sure everything lines up. You know you got it on the right way because there's a bigger slot at the top than what there is at the bottom, and then that attaches to the outside of the planter. So you'll see that similarly there's a large slot at the top and a small one at the bottom, so you just push that in and it locks in securely. Then it's a case of putting on the first rubber sealing washer and putting the locking nut on, spinning that on, and just hopefully it will be watertight at finger tightness and you don't need a wrench to it, but we'll have a look. We'll fill it with water next. Perfect seal made. Really pleased with that at finger tightness, and you can see the excess water is now draining away. Okay, so the planter is just about finished draining the water, so I'm going to put this in. This is the platform to put the compost on. So it goes in, these fingers go downwards to form the contact with the water. And as I said earlier, you fill those with compost in order to get that capillary action. Nice how that fits around the edges, locks in really nicely, and you'll see that the water level is now roughly at the top of the fingers. So the next stage is to fill that with compost. So the compost I'm using is
about 60 litres in total, and of that there is about 40 litres of old tomato potting compost from last year, combined with my own mix of garden compost. This is primarily hedge prunings, shredded up, and grass cuttings. And to that I'm putting on a fertiliser, or to that I'm mixing with a fertiliser that I've never used before. Bioplant vegan fertiliser pellets with a plant food ratio of 8:6:11. So similar to EX4. As you can see, they're very much like chicken manure pellets, quite hard, but they will dissolve in water and moisture. So after a bit of thought, and in keeping with EX4, I'm going to be mixing these into the compost at about 5 grams per litre, which should hopefully provide adequate nutrition. So that's just over 300 grams in total going into this mix. So I'll sprinkle those on and get mixing. It's about an hour since I filled this with water. Let's just have a quick look at the water level, see if it's gone down at all. You'll see the water level is just at the bottom of the drain holes. I did put a wrench on this just to be doubly certain, and just to make sure that it didn't develop a leak when it's all planted up. But very, very pleased with this, absolutely watertight. So as you can see, this is the final mix. There's the odd pellet. So it's all now well mixed in and ready to decant out of the wheelbarrow and into the planter. So what I'm going to do with this is to push it well down into these fingers, as the instruction says, because that gives you the capillary action. So you're pressing it well down, and of course everything is starting to get like a mud pie. So you need to do this with every one. So that's all the holes filled, and you can see just how wet this is getting already. So it certainly is working by capillary action, so we'll just go on filling that up. Well, I measured out 60 litres and it's filled with 60 litres of compost exactly. So you'll see that water level's not even moved. This is ready to plant up now, but I'm not going to plant it up tonight because I want to see if that water level drops and this becomes a lot wetter, because the compost that I've used, especially the homemade compost, is quite dry at the moment, so I just want to see what gets soaked up before we plant it. So I'll see you tomorrow. I said that I wanted to have a look at what happened with the reservoir of water and whether it would be taken up into the compost before I planted it. So let's have a quick look, and you'll see that the water level has indeed dropped, which means that it actually has been taken up into the compost. Looks quite dry on the surface, but we'll have a go at planting it and see what happens as I get into the lower depths of the material. So this is what I'm going to be planting and sowing in the planter. Firstly, we've got some onions, spring onions, white Lisbon, got some sweet basil, lettuce Silesian, which is a crisp head lettuce, some multi-sown plugs of beetroot boltardy, and some dwarf French beans which are Delanelle, which is probably one of the better varieties. Certainly it grows upright and may be quite good in this. I'm also going to be direct sowing to really give this a good trial, and this is just standard French breakfast radish. I'm more than happy with this. Planting went really well. You can see everything is nicely buried in and a nice lip left around it. Helps to prevent birds from scratching out all the material. I've just hand sown a few radish as well. Very important with radish. A lot of people fail with radish because they sow them too thickly. You want them about sort of 3/4 to an inch apart, and then you'll get a really good crop of radish. So I'll just cover those in lightly. And I think we have a fully planted up planter. One job left to do though. Surprising how much water is actually needed between the half and the maximum mark, but we need to top it back up to the maximum. And we're just coming up to it. It's probably taking about 2 gallons of water. Finally, pop the lid down and just keep an eye on the water. And although the compost was quite moist at depth, I'm just going to give these a little bit of a watering just to settle them in. One final word of advice: set these up where you're going to grow them. They're very, very heavy. They're certainly not going to blow away in the wind. So that brings me to the end of my little demonstration on planting up these planters and the use of the new pelleted vegan fertiliser. Hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be back in the next few weeks to see how everything is growing. But for now, so long.